There was a moment when everything seemed to be going right. The website was live. The logo looked professional. The social media pages were active. The products were good. And yet, something was terribly wrong. People were visiting but not buying. They were looking but not remembering. And when potential customers were asked what made the business different from its competitors, there was an uncomfortable silence. Because the truth was simple, the business had a brand, but it didn't have a clear identity. And that is where our story begins. Imagine a business owner named Michael. For years, Michael had poured everything into his company: early mornings, late nights, countless meetings, endless product improvements. Every decision seemed designed to move the business forward. But growth had begun to slow. Competitors were appearing everywhere. Some had cheaper prices. Others had larger audiences. And a few seemed to have something Michael couldn't quite explain. They weren't necessarily better. They simply seemed more memorable. One evening, Michael sat alone in his office, staring at his computer screen. He opened his website. Then his social media. Then his latest advertisement. Then his competitor's website. And suddenly, he noticed something that made his stomach drop. His competitor wasn't selling a dramatically different product. They weren't offering some revolutionary invention. They were communicating their value more clearly. Their brand told a story. Michael's didn't. That realization created a question that would change everything. What if the problem wasn't the business itself, but the way the business was being presented to the world? And that question leads us to something every entrepreneur eventually has to confront. A brand is not simply a logo. It isn't just colors, fonts, advertisements, or a website. A powerful brand is the feeling people remember after they've encountered your business. It's the promise you make. It's the reason someone chooses you when another company offers something similar. And most importantly, it's the difference between being seen and being remembered. Michael had spent years building his business, but he had never stopped to build the meaning behind it. That was about to change. The next morning, Michael began searching for answers. He looked at branding agencies. He watched marketing videos. He downloaded guides. He read articles. And the more he learned, the more complicated everything seemed. One expert talked about visual identity. Another talked about digital marketing. Someone else focused entirely on social media. Another insisted that storytelling was the secret. Michael wasn't looking for another disconnected tactic. He needed something bigger. He needed a solution that could connect the pieces. That was when he discovered Brandville Business Solutions. At first, he expected another company promising to transform his business. But then he started exploring what Brandville was really about. And he discovered something important. The goal wasn't simply to make a business look better. It was about helping a business understand its potential and communicate that potential clearly. That distinction changed Michael's perspective. Because if your brand looks beautiful but nobody understands what you stand for, you still have a problem. If your social media gets attention but doesn't build trust, you still have a problem. If your website attracts visitors but fails to convert them, you still have a problem. A successful brand needs more than visibility. It needs direction. And Brandville Business Solutions represented an opportunity to bring those elements together. Brand strategy, digital presence, marketing, communication, customer connection. And the deeper question underneath all of them: why should people choose you? Michael decided to take a closer look at his own company. He started with one uncomfortable exercise. He wrote down everything his business offered: products, services, features, benefits, experience, technology, customer support. Then he asked himself, what makes us different? He stared at the page. For the first time in years, he realized something. He had described what his company did, but he hadn't explained why it mattered. That was the missing piece. And this is where many businesses get trapped. They spend so much time talking about themselves that they forget to talk about the customer. Customers don't wake up thinking, I need a company with an excellent internal process. They think, I have a problem, can someone help me solve it? They want clarity, confidence, trust, results. They want to know that choosing a particular business will make their life better. And a powerful brand answers that question before the customer even asks it. Michael began rebuilding his brand from the inside out. Instead of asking, what should our logo look like? He asked, what should people feel when they experience our company? Instead of asking, what should we post today? He asked, what should our audience understand about us? Instead of asking, how do we get more followers? He asked, how do we build relationships with the people who matter? Those questions created a completely different strategy. His website began speaking more directly to customers. His messaging became clearer. His content became more purposeful. His social media stopped feeling like a collection of random posts. And slowly, something began to happen. People started responding differently. A former customer sent a message. I finally understand what your company stands for. Then another prospect said, I've been seeing your content for weeks. I feel like I know your business. And then came the message Michael had been waiting for. A new customer wrote, I chose you because your brand made me trust you. Michael stared at those words. Trust. Not price. Not a discount. Not a flashy promotion. Trust. That was the moment he understood the true power of branding. But Michael's journey wasn't finished. Because there was still one problem. His competitors were changing too. They were becoming more sophisticated. They were improving their marketing. They were investing in digital platforms. And Michael realized something even more important. Building a brand isn't a one-time project. The marketplace changes. Customers change. Technology changes. Expectations change. And businesses that refuse to evolve can quickly become invisible. So Michael had another decision to make. Would he simply repair his brand? Or would he build a brand capable of growing with the future? That question would lead him to the next stage of the journey. Because the real secret wasn't just discovering what Brandville Business Solutions could do for his business. It was discovering what his business could become when every part of the brand finally worked together. And that is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because Michael soon discovered that his biggest branding problem wasn't his competition. It was something much closer to home. Something he had overlooked for years. Something that had been quietly weakening his business from the beginning. And in part 2, we're going to uncover exactly what it was and how transforming that one hidden weakness changed the way customers saw his business forever. Don't miss part 2. Because sometimes, unlocking your brand's true potential isn't about becoming someone else. It's about finally revealing what was already there. When we left Michael, he had discovered something powerful. His business wasn't necessarily failing because the products were poor. It wasn't failing because the market had disappeared. And it wasn't even because his competitors were better. The real problem was that his customers couldn't clearly understand the value he was offering. But Michael was about to discover something even deeper. Something that many businesses overlook. Consistency. His brand looked one way on his website. Another way on social media. His advertising sounded different from his customer service. And his messaging changed depending on who was creating the content. Each individual piece looked acceptable. But together, they created confusion. And confusion is dangerous. Because when customers are confused about what your business represents, they hesitate. And hesitation can become lost business. Michael realized that his brand needed to feel like one recognizable experience. The same promise. The same personality. The same values. The same level of professionalism. Whether someone discovered the company through a search engine, social media post, website, advertisement, email, or conversation, they needed to recognize the same brand. That was the missing connection. This is where Brandville Business Solutions became more than a branding exercise for Michael. It became a framework for thinking about the entire customer journey. The first impression. The message. The visual identity. The digital presence. the marketing, the relationship, the follow-up, the experience. Everything mattered. Because customers don't experience a company in isolated pieces, they experience it as one story. And if every part of that story feels disconnected, the customer notices. But when everything works together, something remarkable happens. The brand begins to feel trustworthy, professional, intentional, memorable. Michael began treating every customer interaction as another chapter in his brand story. His website became the introduction. His social media became the conversation. His marketing became the invitation. His customer service became the proof. And his products became the experience that confirmed the promise. Suddenly, branding wasn't decoration. It was business strategy. Then came the biggest test. Michael launched a new campaign. In the past, he would have immediately judged success by clicks and views. This time, he looked deeper. Were people understanding the message? Were they engaging? Were they asking better questions? Were they becoming customers? Were existing customers returning? And something surprising happened. The campaign didn't simply generate attention, it generated recognition. People began describing the company using the same words Michael had intentionally built into the brand. That was the moment he knew the transformation was real. The company wasn't just broadcasting a message anymore. The audience was repeating it. And that is one of the strongest signs of a powerful brand. When customers can explain who you are without you having to explain yourself. But there was still one final lesson. Michael had initially believed branding was about getting more customers. Now he understood that branding was also about attracting the right customers. Not everyone is your customer. And trying to appeal to everyone can make your brand appeal to nobody. A strong brand has the courage to stand for something. It knows who it serves. It understands the problems it solves. It communicates its value clearly. And it creates a reason for the right audience to say, "This is for me." That realization changed Michael's marketing completely. He stopped trying to compete with everyone. He stopped copying competitors. He stopped chasing every trend. Instead, he focused on his strengths, his values, his customers, his story, his unique position. And slowly, his business began attracting people who genuinely connected with what the company represented. That created something discounts could never create: loyalty. Months later, Michael returned to the same office where he had once sat staring at his competitor's website. But this time, the feeling was completely different. His company had grown. The website was clearer. The marketing was stronger. Customers were responding. The brand was recognizable. But the biggest transformation wasn't visible on the screen. It was inside Michael himself. He no longer asked, "How can we look bigger?" He asked, "How can we create more value?" He no longer asked, "How can we beat our competitors?" He asked, "How can we become more useful to our customers?" And he no longer thought of branding as an expense. He understood it as an investment in trust. Because a business can sell a product once, but a powerful brand can build a relationship that lasts. And perhaps that is the most important lesson of the entire story. Your brand's true potential may already be inside your business. It may be hidden inside your experience, inside your values, inside your customer relationships, inside the problem you solve better than anyone else, inside the story you've never told. The challenge isn't always creating something new. Sometimes, it's discovering what has been there all along. That is the opportunity behind Brandville Business Solutions. To look beyond the surface. To connect strategy with identity. To transform scattered marketing into a clearer brand experience. And to help businesses move from simply being visible to becoming memorable. Because in a crowded marketplace, being seen isn't enough. People must understand you. They must trust you. They must remember you. And eventually, they must choose you. Think about your own business for a moment. If someone discovered your brand today, would they immediately understand what makes you different? Could they explain your value in one sentence? Would your website, social media, marketing, and customer experience tell the same story? And most importantly, what would your customers remember about you tomorrow? Those questions may feel uncomfortable, but they can also become the beginning of something extraordinary. Because every great brand has a moment when it stops asking, "How can we look like everyone else?" and starts asking, "What can we become that nobody else can replace?" That is where true potential begins. Not with a logo, not with a trend, not with a single advertisement, but with clarity, with purpose, with consistency, with courage, and with a willingness to build a brand that means something. Michael's story began with a struggling business, but it ended with something much more valuable than increased visibility. He discovered confidence. He discovered clarity. And most importantly, he discovered that his brand wasn't simply something customers could see. It was something they could believe in. And that may be the greatest business advantage of all. So, if you're standing at the beginning of your own branding journey, don't ask only, "How can I get more attention?" Ask, "How can I become impossible to forget?" Because your next customer may not be looking for the cheapest option. They may not be looking for the biggest company. They may simply be looking for a business they can trust. And your brand can become that reason. The question is, are you ready to unlock its true potential? If this story gave you a new perspective on branding and business growth, like this video, share it with another entrepreneur who needs to hear it. And leave a comment telling us what you believe makes a brand unforgettable. And if you want more inspiring business stories, branding lessons, marketing strategies, and practical ideas to help your business grow, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Because your brand has a story. Your customers are waiting to hear it. And the next chapter could change everything.